What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the train wreck. Today, I'm going to come into you live and show you a little article that got sent to me by my brother that I think you might find interesting. I had a little bit of time to check into it, and so I thought I'd share it with you. Um, Pardon me. For some reason, I cannot get this frog out of my throat, which is very, very freaking ironic considering the story I'm getting ready to share with you. I really didn't plan that one because I'm really not that funny. This is going to be cool. Just wait. So we're going to jump over to CNN.com, and this is a story that he found. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip myself off here. Ha! Yeah, it's usually other people doing that, but today it'll be me flipping myself off. 1 second. Let me get some coffee. Ah, yeah, coffee. Um, excuse me. So sorry. So this is obviously not the story we're going to deal with because that's a little too heavy for my taste, to be quite honest with you. But what I do want to do is I'm going to begin. This is just kind of how I look up how I look up information. So this is let's do robotic. And excuse me, mercy. Oh, I am so sorry, folks. I did that totally wrong. Yeah. All right. So let's try that one more time. Ah, I knew it was eventually going to happen. Let me see if I can't find it in the top feed here. So let me give you, as I'm searching for it, let me give you the basic synopsis of what's going on here. So what they've basically learned how to do is they've learned how to create what they are calling a robotic cell. And so let's see, it's a self-replicating cell. And here is our story. I am so sorry. Newbie. Now, there's a video here. The video is like a minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and let this play, and so that way you'll get a chance to get a real life picture of how amazing this thing is, and then we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive here. So here we go. Isn't that awesome? So what we're going to do is there's more in the article. Okay, now let me give you a.
After
Let me
tracking
stop
COVID
this.
for many months.
Sorry, it did this to me when I watched it the first time. It loves to play those stories, and it's going to leave that up. All right. Anyway, so we're going to go through this story. I'm not going to read all of it. It's actually not that long of a read. And on the rebroadcast of this, I will have a link in it, but you can just go to CNN.com. And it is actually, as you saw, self replicating brought this article right up. It gets its name, which sounds very much like a Japanese video game, but it actually gets its name from this African clawed frog which is where the stem cells come from. And so, and it goes through and shows the size. These are they're small. They're less than a millimeter, but a millimeter is visible with the naked eye. And what you saw there, that was actually, scissors and probes coming in on the sides. And as you read through the story, I'm looking at the time, and I don't think I'm going to have time to read through a lot of it. So as I talk, I'm going to let you look at this right here. And so now, unfortunately, this is just a, a repeating video. But what they did with these cells, which it explains in the article, is they gave the computer a problem, which is what shapes would be best for these cells for them to be able to accomplish the task they have here. And what they're doing is they're collecting stem cell material, genetic material, and they are collecting it. And they go through, and you notice they look like Pac-Man, and which is hysterical. And hopefully you can see my mouse on this. But if you watch and hear, they're literally drawing it in to their mouth. And so they go through and they create, and this goes through and it's asking, what is life? Is it a robot? Is it real? Well, obviously it's cellular in its nature. And where the computer came in was in its shape, and which hopefully we'll be able to find that actual statement from one of the doctors that actually worked on it. Here, I believe we have copy that explains what we're seeing here. It says the AI didn't program these machines in the way we usually think about writing code. It shaped and sculpted and came up with this Pac-Man shape. So the AI's function is not inside the cell. The AI's function was to determine what was the best shape for this cell to be. So I'm going to go on and read a little bit of this because this is kind of the crux of it. It says the shape is, in essence, the program. The shape is the program. The shape influences how the xenobots behave to amplify this incredibly surprising process. Well, what's the incredibly surprising process? Not how they float around. It says they're very early technology, no practical use. Um, but it says this combination of molecular biology and artificial intelligence could potentially be used in a host of tasks in the body and the environment, according to the researchers. Um, it says this could take on things like collecting microplastics in the ocean. So when you saw it circling around and picking up, the pieces of stem cell, imagine that on top of the surface of the water in a slightly larger form, picking up the microplastic, which is destroying the ocean. Um, inspecting root systems, and then the regenerative medicine. So, and this is a lot of that is delivering medication directly to the site of something is very controllable. It's an amazing process, very incredible step. So it says with the prospect of self-replicating biotechnology could spark concern, the researchers said that's what that means, by the way, when I can't speak. The researchers said that the living machines were entirely contained in a lab and easily extinguished as they are biodegradable and regulated by ethics experts. So these aren't sentient. All right, they're not. This is very basic concepts that they're working with here. Now, so I don't want you to worry about what they're actually doing. That's actually not the point of this video, because I think the video is actually being passed around because people are kind of freaking out over what these guys are doing. Um, I mean, yeah, in the hands of Lex Luthor, yeah, you might have a problem with something like this in our lifetime. But I wanted to what piqued my curiosity was it says their study was this study was published in the peer-reviewed scientific journal PNAS on Monday. Okay, this is when you are evaluating anything that says that it is from the scientific world, this is very important. This is very important. What this means is, now, not that everything that's in, not that things not peer reviewed hold no value. But when you can't get other scientists to say that your methodology was acceptable, not that they agree with that outcome, but that you did it in a correct manner, there might be a problem that you want to check a little deeper. But this is from a peer reviewed scientific journal. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go look at the journal because I'm a nerd and I don't need much time, to be quite honest with you, to go through what's going on here. But so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom this up a bit um, to make this easier for you to see. Don't get crazy, Brian. Don't get crazy. It's always too much. Always. So this kinematic self-replication, I'm long and short of it. This is not the first time this has ever happened. This happens on in much smaller. They were saying in much smaller organisms, usually at the molecular level. They've never seen it do it on its own before on something this size. So it goes through and it this breaks it up to you, and it says. Now I'm just going to read this first part to you. Great article. Again, we'll link in the be linked in the rebroadcast. It says almost all organisms replicate by growing and then shedding offspring. Some molecules also replicate, but by moving rather than growing. They find and combine building blocks into self copies. Here we show that clusters of cells, if freed from a developing organism, can similarly find and combine loose cells into clusters that look and move like they do. I went and made a Lego me. I mean, literally, not a Lego me, but I'm a professional. My equipment's not. So, okay. Testing. Don't do that, by the way. That annoys sound, man. Don't tap the mic. So, anyway, sorry. So, it's building replications of itself. It says combine those clusters and look and move like they do, and that this ability does not have to be specifically evolved or introduced by genetic manipulation. One thing that is in the articles about this cells is they were not genetically modified. They did not genetically do anything to these cells. They took these cells, used the computer to say, hey, if we do this and that, how is these cells going to move around where they can collect these clusters, and then these clusters left on their own grow into a replication of the other item, the other cell. So it says, finally, we show that artificial intelligence can design clusters that replicate better and perform useful work as they do so. This suggests that future technology may, with little outside guidance, become more useful as they spread, and that life harbors surprising behaviors just below the surface waiting to be uncovered. Now, that would scare me more than the other things, but I want to point out something because I read through this entire article and I'm going to get to the bottom here. I'm sorry, it's already past my time, but get to the bottom here of this article and the conclusion that it brings out. And then this is actually pretty easy to read. It's not that hard. You're going to see a lot of words that are pretty high on the syllable scale, but it goes through and it explains how they went from start to finish on this entire process because they were obviously start. This is not they didn't start at this point. They started somewhere else. But as we get through the bottom, and let me I'm sorry, I didn't realize I read so much. Oh my gosh, did I really read this much of this article? Lord help me, sweet Jesus. Um, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm out of time and I'm not likely to be able to find it in this thing. Here is the long and short of it. And I feel really bad at this point because you guys have stuck with me for so long and that I missed it. In this article, it points out that the idea of a cell of a life form of this size being able to use this kinematic self-replication, they did not think was possible. They thought for that to happen, and the article uses the word, and I quote, millennia. They're finding now that it's happening, and you saw those videos. It's happening. I mean, as instantly. It's this is a real time, you know. So w- one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this article out was one was to kind of allay any fears. We'll get back to the top of this article so you guys can remember what you're looking for when you go looking for this. And then at the end of this article, there is a link to the other a page where it gives you, you know, the actual journal itself, and then the journal gives you synopsis. And what they're pointing out, the amazing thing is they're realizing that life develops a lot faster than they thought. That life can do things that we never thought was possible before. You saw or you read for your own eyes. The man's it's life will happen in a way that is beyond our understanding. I'm not trying to tell you what to believe, but we always say that you probably should not hang on to a belief system that contradicts the evidence that's right in front of you. So here's some evidence, and I'm not pushing one because believe me, I'm in the middle. So figure that out. The information like this unfortunately gets overlooked because it often is held and regarded as somehow being scary and something we should be afraid of. I don't necessarily think that's a situation here. I think what we should look at this as and information from another well he's I would say he has a YouTube channel. He's not a YouTuber, but another you on YouTube you can get is Dr. James Tour, and his profession and his specialty is in cells just like this and creating synthetic cells in a lab, primarily for the purpose of medication and for the other, you know, places that this living robot is expected to be used. So this is not, you know, there's years and years of research and science behind this. This is not, this is just a new advancement that none of us are going to ever have heard about unless, you know, by happenstance, it happens across my desk and I don't have it happens in front of me and I do a video like this. So if you've got a few minutes, the read is quick on both articles. And to be quite honest with you, I think I was through both of them in less than a half hour watching the videos and everything. The terminology is a little deep. It's a little heavy on the terminology, but it does a really good job of putting in context enough that you can tell by the sentence what they're kind of talking about. Because this is not my forte at all. Definitely not my skill set. You know, I can cut your hair really well, but check this out if you get a minute. It's a very exciting news, but in along with the exciting news, I want to kind of like underline this with especially people of faith. When you see things like this, don't freak out. Read it. Read the articles. They didn't take many a time. I went through the entire article, a lot of information on it. Like I said, and you can do it on your own in less than a half hour. Uh, it's better to be thoughtful than to speak and remove all doubt. So when it comes to things like this that we haven't spent time researching and then to make a connection to this or and this is going to work when we do the combined news program. It's the same thing where we're going to be taking stories like this that may be getting spun one way and we're going to spin them like true north, you know, where it's actually headed. And because this is the kind of thing again, this is the kind of thing that breeds fear. And because the ignorance will breed fear, and then the fear usually does, unfortunately, it breeds violence and anger and outbursts and things like that. And again, that's what we're trying to get away from. So, all right, guys, let me get back over here. to where I actually maybe look like I might know what I'm doing. I don't. I don't. It's gonna be a long freaking time before I look like I know what I'm doing. All right. So, thanks for stopping in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. If this is content that interests you, like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next round. All right. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.